So why don't you just start by just telling me a little bit about yourself?
All right, will do. Well, I grew up in Virginia, and I spent a lot of time on my grandparents' farm. And so pretty much all my life I've been an omnivore. And at the same time, my grandparents, my parents always gardened. And so I was always eating a lot of vegetables as well. And so most of my life, I felt like I've been really healthy.
Mm.
Um, I've, for the last 10 years or so, I've been biking to work every day, and I try to jog or run every once in a while. I play soccer on Sundays. And so I've always felt like I've been very healthy until suddenly I met you and your wonderful blog and meal plans. And then I realized I wasn't that healthy. Uh, I wasn't that bad, but it definitely made a huge difference. So yeah, I mean, a few things that really changed. So I was 50 when we first came across your blog,
Mhm.
and had my niece told us about you and said we should try it out. And that summer, before we started, I actually was diagnosed with arthritis in my hand, such that I couldn't open a jar of peanut butter. I had trouble riding my bike. Um, and for all of my life, in addition to that, all my life, I've had attention deficit disorder, which in 1997, I started taking medication for it
Mm.
and just kind of assumed that that would be the rest of my life. And, over the years playing soccer, I'd noticed that I wasn't running as fast as I used to run. I wasn't able to last as long as I used to. And is those kind of things I thought was just typical of getting old. And
Mm. Mhm.
started this diet, and within 2 months, maybe 3 months for some of the stuff, just things started to change. My arthritis went away, and in about 3 months, um, I suddenly started getting really clear-headed, and thought, well, maybe I could go off my medicine. And my wife Jen, who's here, by the way, she wanted to say hi.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Molly.
Hi.
Hi. So excited to see you. I'm just over in the corner, but I'll throw in a comment if needed.
Absolutely. Yes, please. Don't be shy.
Woohoo.
Anyway, so if I would go off my meds within about 2 days, Jen would say, "Have you gone off your meds?"
Mm.
And so I didn't tell her for a month, and
Mm.
kind of reaffirmed to me that something actually was going on. And I had done some reading back in '97 about this, that sometimes attention deficit can have be a result of less blood flow to the frontal cortex. So I thought, well, this kind of makes sense as I started researching why I was starting to change. That, well, maybe my blood flow has changed, and maybe I'm getting a lot more blood to my head. So that was really, for me, quite dramatic. When I went on the meds in '97, I didn't want to admit it to anybody, and felt really embarrassed about it. So it took about a year or two till I was able to talk to people about it, and found out I wasn't so abnormal. But coming off of it, it was like, whoa! I didn't think this was possible. I didn't even dream that this would be a reality. And I don't know if that's true for everybody. But it definitely was for me. My arthritis went away. I went back to the doctor. I'd gotten an x-ray, and she had said in June that my bone had already started to deteriorate. And so I went back in November, I think it was, and said, hey, I'm not having any pain anymore. And she said, oh, well, I've heard that maybe, going off red meat can help. I had actually gone off red meat back in January, so it must have been just the combination of other healthy factors that helped that the inflammation just totally go away. And that's what it felt like, is inflammation just left. My cholesterol dropped. It was getting around 200. It dropped down to like 160. My endurance and stamina just changed. I feel, instead of being 53, I feel like I'm 35 now. And it was great. And I suddenly started feeling like, wow, why can't it seems like other people could feel this way, and if they just knew about it. So I started giving talks and telling people at work, and some people got a little annoyed, so I kind of backed off. But I started offering judgment-free, by your guidelines. I've really appreciated that, and I think that comes across whenever I give a talk now, that you do what you need to do. This is what I experienced, and have at it. I don't have any medical advice, but this is what I've known to be true now, and good luck. May you have the same journey. So
yeah,
it's been fun. Since that was 2017 when I started doing that. And I've given numerous talks at school, at our local farmers market, our co-op, at a library in Elkhart, and in our church had a creation care retreats. There were 4 of them last year. And that was basically a focus on, what can the church do, or the members of the church do, about taking care of creation. And so I was asked to give talks on, how food is part of that, and how I started then learning more about, the environmental side of things, and how much of a change, and dramatic of a change, even just taking meat off your plate, how much that can make a difference.
Yeah.
Even though it's just one person, it still makes a difference. And because of that, other people in my life have decided to try this out. Like my parents, who, at 82, had heart surgery. My dad had open heart surgery at 84 with, quadruple bypass. And after that happened, I talked to them and said, this is what I'm learning. This is what I'm experiencing. You might want to give it a try. And I really didn't expect them to do anything about it, but they've been plant-based, not 100%, but pretty much ever since. And
wow.
1 year later, Dad's heart output was back to normal.
Wow.
So it's been amazing.
Incredible. Geez,
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, that's so much. That is so much to unpack, but that's, so much good stuff here. So before I go any further, let me just can you give me an idea or a sense of how you were eating before you switched to a whole food plant-based diet? Because I understand that you thought that you were eating healthy, and I hear that a lot. I thought I was doing good. I thought I was eating healthy. But it's like, they just don't quite know what healthy is. And so Can you give me a picture of your average kind of day of eating before you made the switch?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it is kind of bizarre looking back, just realizing how ignorant I was, and realizing, not having vegetables all the time is just not healthy eating, right? So we'd go out to eat. We went out to eat a lot more, so we've saved money in that way. But I'd love, pork barbecue or brisket or a hamburger occasionally. We rarely ever did fast food. So the eating out we do would be like the local brewery, or we have a bunch of local restaurants around here, Indian restaurants and so forth. So, chicken and ham and turkey at Thanksgiving, and it was that kind of thing. We weren't eating meat all the time, but pasta. It was really surprising to me. Even when we started on the meal plan really made a huge difference, because Jen teaches 3rd grade at the local school, and I'm at the central office. We're both full time. At the time, we still had a child at home. He's in high school now. He's in college. And our other child had moved out. She had finished college. So we didn't have a lot of time to really figure out how to do this. And so those meal plans made a tremendous difference. And suddenly we found ourselves eating so much less processed stuff, so much less sugar, so much less added salt, less soy oils, and just having really good food. Tremendous food. In fact, it was some of the best food we've had in our lives. So for the first 50 years, So that was exciting. It was interesting. I got my cholesterol checked in like November. And then I think it was the next year, I got it checked again in like January, and it had gone back up to 180. And I was like, what? How is this possible? I was expecting it to keep dropping down and down. And then that's when I started realizing and learning more about oils and how oils make a difference. And so I literally cut out every bit of oil for 10 days and got my cholesterol checked again, and it dropped back down to 160. So I don't know if the previous test was faulty or what, but it seemed to make a difference.
Yeah. I've heard that a lot. And I think it seems to me like a lot of people before making this switch think that they eat healthier than they do, because just like you said, like you didn't eat fast food. And so I think if people are thinking, well, I don't eat fast food and I don't eat, like total crap, like I'm not eating Pop-Tarts for breakfast and right. Then I'm doing pretty good. And I think that like so many people, I think the majority of people, I would say in our community were just like that. Like didn't necessarily eat just like McDonald's every day, but thought that they were eating pretty healthy, but it's just kind of like they were eating the healthy version of the standard American diet, but it still kind of falls underneath that.
Right.
So, I think there's so many people out there I used to be like that too. Yep. I didn't eat meat, but even just being vegetarian, and so much cheese and eggs and tons of oil. And so when you were making this switch, you were cooking more, obviously. So was cooking a thing that you and Jen did together? Was that something that you enjoyed, or was it?
I'm coming in.
Come on over.
No, I was not the primary cook at all. Jen did all of cooking. And so when we went to do this, she said, you're going to have to step up to the plate or we're not going to do this. So I
agree. Good.
It's been really good. It's been something now that we do together. And so that's been really nice.
It's like your thing.
Yeah.
It's our thing.
Yeah, I mean, and we kind of come in and out of it. Like this week, I just went to All Recipes and selected 4 things I wanted, which I love that feature. He always gets the groceries, and so I can do that. Or since I'm off in the summer, since I'm a teacher, I can just pick and choose with that. And then kind of we go through these periods and we get back into the meal plan for 3 or 4, what the weekly we have to have, what's that week. And so yeah, it's been nice.
That recipe edition is fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you.
It's amazing because Jen would get kind of burned out every once in a while with the meal plans, and I didn't want to have to search for recipes, and I didn't want to have to try to figure that out. And then the grocery list, because the groceries are a big deal to me. When I go shopping, I want to have a nice list, shows me everything that I need, and I can just go through the store and get it. And now I don't have to figure out, was that 1 can of beans that we needed, or so that's been huge.
Yeah.
And so now Jen can just pick through those and boom, we have a list.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So much easier. I love it too. I use it a lot as well. So Jen, has your experience kind of mirrored Tim's? Like, did you go through this transition together?
Tim kind of spearheaded it and got me into it, and I could have gone either way, right? I was the cook, and that was kind of what I provided for my family. And all of a sudden he's kind of saying, but let's do this. And now what I've always done for our family is not like it's not good enough, but it's a change. It was different. So I experienced some health benefits. I didn't have like some of the things he did, but I could poop then. I could poop, and that was big.
That was big.
And I also had a couple sinus surgeries during this time, but in the last year and a half, I haven't been on antibiotics. I've been really healthy. So I attributed a lot of it to that. I grew up, our heritage, we're Mennonite. And so we grew up where everything is homemade. And that's a big part of how my mom showed me love was, the cake, the pie, the beautiful chicken or whatever. And so I had to really switch that up. Like that was an emotion that, eating is emotional and it's in your soul. And so, now that a couple of years have passed, the kids are like, oh, are we having, tofu scramble? Or, I learned how to make cream cheese cinnamon rolls without, eggs or real butter, just some little things here and there that now we have family food that holds memories for us. Oh, we had, what was the one, sushi bowl or whatever we've had, or just different things they know now. And oh, remember when we ate that? Okay, yeah, now we have memories, but that was different for me as the cook. And
it's really interesting. I think you're so right that we do hold, food is so, it just has this place in our heart, and we have these emotional connections, and we have, a lot of feelings are attached to it. And I think from all these years doing this and seeing people go through this transition, that's something that only time can kind of make better. Like you can't fast forward that or hack that. Like you really just have to sit with it. And then eventually, you're right. Like for your kids now, their memories are going to be of, plants. Right. And you're kind of like, you change that. But I think that's so normal and so natural. With my mom growing up in the way that I did, my memories of are like tofu scrambles, because that's how. But if one day somebody was like, okay, or if Luann was like, okay, we're changing how we eat and we're going to just eat meat. Like, not that I would really do that, but I can imagine that, like, feeling that separation. So yeah, I definitely feel that. So I'm kind of curious, like, Tim, most people in our community, the vast majority, I would say it's always in a heterosexual couple, that's usually the woman who gets on board with this and drags her husband kicking and screaming into the meal plans. And then eventually he's like, it's not bad, or this is good. And then his health gets better. And then it's like a happy story. But this was sort of, not that you were kicking and screaming, Jen, but this was you, Tim, that kind of decided, like, we're going to do this. So can you tell me a little bit about what made you decide to do this?
So whenever I give my talks, I often kind of share that really it was kind of based on vanity. So my niece and nephew came into a restaurant once in the beginning of 2017, and they looked like they were glowing. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? What's going on here? Because your face is just totally changed or something. I couldn't figure it out. Yeah. Anyways, so they said, well, we're just eating plants now. So that was really the beginning stages for me of like, wow, I don't feel like I'm ugly, but it would be great to glow, right? And so that wasn't the super big motivator, but it was enough of a kick to go, oh, maybe I should look into this. Maybe I should try it out. So I didn't start with the whole food plant-based right away. In January, I started basically going off meat. And then I was still doing dairy and, like I said, the oils and other processed foods and stuff, but just meat. And so I didn't change in my health until it was end of July when we went on the whole food plant-based diet. So the vanity thing was probably the biggest little jump start for me, because I didn't have any big health concerns.
Right.
And then after that, it was just kind of like, once we started, I'm into trying things like this. I
won't forget, like, the first week that we had the meal plan was the first week back at school, and I taught third grade, and I came home, basically after a day of not really, but I remember going out to the patio and Tim served, it was beans and cornbread or something. And I was just like almost crying. It was so good. And this food was made, right? And I was just like,
pulled it out of the fridge, warmed it up, and ready to go.
It was just like, and then we just didn't look back. We just didn't look back.
It was easy at that point.
Yeah. And we've taken many little breaks, like, we're taking a week off and I'm going to cook from Vegan Reaches stuff or Minimalist Baker or just other little things. But we always come back for most, the chunks, large chunks. Yeah.
And you're allowed to do that.
Yeah. No,
it's always whole food plant-based.
Yeah, he's more resistant to that, but I still can, for having been the cook for 30 years, I can look and see what's in my garden this week we have a nice
Mhm.
garden, green beans and whatever, blah, blah, and I can pull something together that's
Yeah.
great. And
She's a really good cook.
well, I'm just very experienced,
helps.
right? Like I did
Yeah.
it. And so
Yeah.
I'm more comfortable where he really likes the plan, right? And I'm like,
Mhm.
whoa, we've got da-da and da-da-da, let's just throw this.
Mhm.
And so I like, that's a good skill to have too. So
Yes,
yeah.
for sure. It's like, it's a life skill. It really
Yeah.
is. Cooking is
Yeah.
so important. And no matter how you're doing it, as long as it gets done. And,
Right.
well, I have to say that you both are really glowing and you look so healthy and radiant.
Aw.
And if I just saw you, I would say, I bet that they eat whole food plant-based. Like I really would, because you can tell. I mean, people do have that sort of, glow about them. And it's so funny because I always tell people, like, you don't have to convince people to eat this way. Once your people are around you, they're going to notice that something is different. There's going to be a shift in how they look, their attitude. They're going to know and they're going to ask, and then you can tell them, and then they can try it out if they want, because it's really apparent. It's just sort of like, how that outside glow is apparent. So oftentimes I hear people say that they have that same thing, but sort of inside, to match that glow and that sort of radiance, but they also kind of feel that on the inside in their general mindset and just well-being, I guess.
I would say our well-being has grown with this. I mean, like just doing yoga and thinking about our breathing. And I mean, it's just, I don't know if it just, we've tended towards a lot healthier patterns now. We don't hardly drink at all. I mean, just some of those things we would have done, and exercise and getting outside. And so
we're trying to be more present, and I don't know if that's a result of eating this way, or is it just in combination with it. It doesn't matter either way, because we are kind of we're more, I guess we're just more present in some ways. And I think I've been doing I was pretty resistant to yoga, not because I thought it was weird, but I'm more like into playing soccer and riding a bike, and it just wasn't my thing. And then we started doing with Adrienne, of
yoga
course.
with Adrienne,
and it's now, for me, it just feels really good. I think I feel it more physically first, and then that impacts my kind of spirituality or my mental state as well. So
yeah. But we weren't doing all this before we became whole food plant-based. I mean, it's kind of like well, we're already weird to our family, so we might as well just continue the journey.
Take the rest of the way.
Yeah, well, but I think that's exactly why this is a lifestyle, because
that's what it is.
you can't change how you eat. You can't eat this way and then remain doing the things that you do in the rest of your life. Like it changes the rest of your life, and it makes you really aware, and it makes you feel good. And then therefore you're more motivated to do things like exercise and, practice mindfulness or doing yoga or meditation or whatever it is. And so it really is such a lifestyle shift. And so far from, even though it's whole food plant-based diet, it's so not a diet. And so I'm glad that you brought that up.
Well, it is kind of interesting. Like in the last couple of years, I've started raising bees. I'm not doing it now. Too many have died, and so it makes me sad. I don't want to do that. But when I go to mow my lawn now, I notice that I'm being very mindful of any bees that are on dandelions that I'm going to mow, and I'll just go around them. It's kind of like once you start caring about other beings, other animals, insects, and so forth, that starts reflecting in what you do.
Yeah.
And so Jen has always had a very soft spot for any animal. And I'm kind of, not that I didn't have a soft spot, but I hunted when I grew up. In high school, I'd hunt deer and squirrel and dove and rabbit, and I just don't do that anymore. I can't see myself doing that. And it also, we'll catch wasps that are in our house and let them out, or we will kill mosquitoes, but there's a lot of the creatures that we might have normally gotten rid of or killed. We don't do that as much. So I think there is something to it.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about your parents real quick. So how are they doing with this whole transition?
That's tough. I like I said, I didn't expect my parents to change at all. My dad grew up in Pennsylvania near Lancaster, part of Mennonites, and my mom grew up in Southern Illinois and rural conservative
Farmers,
Mennonite
grew up in
farmers.
farms, yeah.
Getting away from having a roast and chicken all the time I was really surprised, and I still am. I'm very impressed with him. Mom had TIAs and a little mini stroke, and then she had her aortic valve replaced. And then that next year is when Dad had his quadruple bypass.
It scared them. It scared them enough that I think they were willing to listen to him.
I really tried not to come down on them. I just tried to say, this is what I'm experiencing, and this is what I'm hearing, and these are some doctors to listen to. Because Mom was really into, she thought she was into health as well, taking supplements and listening to different doctors on, this is the supplement to take now kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so now she's kind of off that and is doing this. And yeah, I've been very impressed. They're, making smoothies, having salads. Growing up most of my life, that was, looking back now, I'm like, wow, we didn't hardly have any salads. If you had a salad on your plate, it was usually in a creamy sauce of some sort. And it was usually like, a little tiny bit. Now we're having bowls of salad, like in a serving bowl. And they are now, their salad is starting to crowd their plate more instead of this little spot.
Heck yeah, man.
And when we go visit them, we aren't so weird.
That's right.
We're not like the troublesome ones that, can't eat whatever, because the mom and dad are not eating it either. So
yeah.
No.
How old are they?
84 now.
Wow. It's never too late.
No, they're going to be 85 this summer. My sister now, I'm the youngest. I have a sister and older brother. My sister now, when she makes food, oftentimes she makes food for them as well. And so now she's not herself plant-based, but she's cooking stuff for them that's plant-based. And so it's kind of, I would love for my sister and brother to try this out and see if it makes a difference for them. But, everybody is on their own journey, and they'll do what they need to do. But I'm impressed that, my sister's trying, and she'll make stuff. She was making some aquafaba meringue cookies for us for Christmas and stuff like that. It's really, it's sweet. My niece from Nashville will send us a little box of whole food, plant-based, mostly.
No, not really.
I guess it's more vegan snacks and stuff
Christmas treats.
At Christmas, because like I go to my office party and it's just all sugar and salty stuff. So
yeah, those holidays can be tricky. I know. I get into that too during the holidays, and even if it's vegan stuff, I found like if I have whole food plant-based like cookies in my fridge, like I just actually perfected a recipe for the blog using a little bit of date sugar and some raisins. I'm like, if I have that, like I don't need anything else. But if you don't do that, I just find myself like, especially during the holidays. So I get it. But the cool thing is like we have these tools, we know what to do, we know how to get like back on track, and it's not such a like stumbling thing,
Right.
once you eat this way for a certain amount of time, because it just becomes your habit, your pattern, and you get back into it.
Right.
So yeah, well, I'm super stoked for you guys, and I think that you both again look amazing, and congratulations on all the awesome changes that your body has been able to kind of facilitate because of what you've done. I think it's really encouraging. I think it'll be encouraging for a lot of people and inspiring for a lot of people too, which when we get on this path, like we want to share it, because it's a relatively easy thing to do for the results that you get. That's what I found.
No kidding.
Yeah.
It's not that drastic. I mean, it feels, there are real hard parts of it, of not going out to eat with friends and eating with them. But, we'll eat ahead of time. And then, I always say my focus is on my friends anyways. It's not on the food that we're eating with them. It's on my friends. And so it's a little bit of an excuse, but it's pretty true that, then I don't have to, I can talk and ask them questions and stuff instead of stuffing my face with food. So.
Yeah. And I think that for a lot of people, actually, it's the opposite, and it's like going out to eat is an excuse to like just eat a bunch of food, and they, put it in the package of, well, we're going to celebrate or something. And I think you're right. I mean, when the attention is on the company and the conversation, that's a much richer experience anyways, Right. So well done you. Thank you for just sharing some of your story and for sitting down with me. And I'm glad that I got to talk with you both.